Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And now the update 1.2 is here, and of course Wargaming decided to buff lots of preferential matchmaking tanks. I decided to give them a whirl on Tuesday, and it looks like I'm already making mistakes in chat because I say "Oh Harry," "Oh hi," or "hi." It looks like I've got there, and I put okay. I say "no homo" just to clarify that I'm not sitting there going "Oh Harry." Oh Harry, indeed. How are you doing? I know Brits do look up to kind of like their royals, but not quite that much. Anyway, I digress. Let's focus on World of Tanks, and that is the Type 59 in question. What exactly have Wargaming done to this tank? Well, let's just have a quick look. Wargaming have buffed quite a substantial amount of things about the Type 59. The DPM has gone up because the rate of fire has been increased. The penetration on the standard rounds is up by 4mm. The aim time is buffed, but this is huge. Turret traverse dispersion has been buffed by pretty much about 20% there. And engine power as well. A massive buff to the engine power of this vehicle, as well as turret armor. Although the turret armor, it's a little bit tricky because you might think, oh, it's just gone from 200 to 230, but that's not actually the case. Pretty much what they've done is they've improved the turret armor directly here and underneath the gun. It used to be 200mm, but now it is 230. But there were parts of the turret that were 230. Now, of course, what do all these buffs do to a vehicle that already has preferential matchmaking? Well, in a matchup like this, it's not really an advantage to have that preferential matchmaking. You need to be as competitive as other Tier 8 vehicles, and so that's what Wargaming have done. Preferential matchmaking tanks always used to be vehicles that had to be balanced about Tier 7.5, because they saw way more Tier 6s and 7s than they would have to 8 and 9s. However, with the template system, this absolutely awful 357 template, that means that your bottom tier pretty much about 70-75% of the time. And so that means that Wargaming are unable to fix this, or at least they've said they're unable to fix this. And so what they've decided to do is instead of buff all preferential matchmaking tanks, so they're more competitive when they reach their Tier 8 games. But remember, that's what the hell are the Tier 6s meant to do against these kind of tanks now? Yeah. Anyway, I really don't want to delve into that too quickly. Let's talk about the Type 59 and its buffs. So, the Type 59 used to be absolutely crazy OP back in the day. It was the first ever Chinese vehicle in the game, and it was in the game even before they introduced the Chinese tech tree. And so the Type 59 was bought by lots of people, and it was crazy good because of its well-angled armor, because everybody's penetration used to be worse back in the day, and it was just this absolute solid tank that would be able to ricochet left, right, and center. Wargaming made some nerfs to the tank, and this is the only premium vehicle they have ever nerfed, and boy was it a big mistake for Wargaming to do that, because it kind of alienated a lot of their paying customers, and so they've never nerfed a premium tank since. Yeah, I guess when I say that it was a mistake, it's a mistake from a business perspective, at least for trying to make money in the short term. But you know what? I think if they were to nerf something like a Defender or a Patriot, maybe they might lose a little bit of money or some of their paying customers. But I tell you what, a lot of the free-to-play players or the people who are on the edge, not really caring and just want to play a well-balanced game, would probably actually respect them a lot more from it. So, more players in the long run, but less high-paying players because they're a bit disgruntled, or maybe a class action lawsuit because you nerfed a tank that people paid actual money for. Yeah, probably something that they best not mess with, right? But one of the big things about the changes to the Type 59 now and all of the preferential matchmaking tanks is that surely they're not going to nerf them now, are they? They've shown how badly the community reacted, or shall I say the people who bought the Type 59 reacted to its nerf back in the day. So now that it has been buffed, I can't see them ever nerfing it again. And that really worries me because this thing feels hella strong now. It really does. The weaknesses of the Type 59 were that it was not the fastest of tanks. It was quite slow up a slope. Look what I managed to do in this game. I got up that slope faster than that unicorn black dog on the enemy team was able to be able to spot me. So I snuck up into a location. I denied the enemy light tank. I got up there pretty much as fast as a slow light tank would get up there. And then when I've got there, I've got really good turret armor that I'm able to sit in front of a guard, ricochet him, or even just make it so that he doesn't bother to try and shoot at me. They all spam heat rounds at me. Doesn't matter. I'm penning the guard. Okay, the Type 59 is just an absolute monster now. I really don't know why this tank needed a buff. I really don't understand, because when we look at the statistics of this vehicle for the past month, its win ratio was pretty much at 50%. It's gone up just a touch now, because obviously with the buffs of the tank, you would expect that players who care about winning games will come back and play the tank to be able to pad their stats a little bit. And everybody who's already got stats in this tank, expect your stats to become weaker just because of the fact that the tank has now been buffed and the expected values for damage, for kills, for just your win ratio are going to go up in this tank. I just really don't see why this vehicle needed a buff. And I don't know, the cynical side of me will be saying that this vehicle has been buffed so that if they sell it in loot crates this Christmas, that more people are going to be tempted into gambling their money frivolously to be able to get a vehicle that they still have a very low chance to be able to pick up. But who knows, maybe QuickyBaby is wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did the Type 59 need a buff? Why would Wargaming be making such a dramatic buff to a vehicle which I guess a lot of people have, but not that many people have who are still left playing the game? And it's not a vehicle that's freely available, right? The only time that this tank has been sold in the last 4 or 5 years has been in loot boxes at Christmas. And I really, 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 really hope that my negative side is wrong and that Wargaming aren't planning on selling this tank in loot boxes again this Christmas after the buff in an aid to try and... Anyway, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just focus on the buff form of this tank. And also this new map. Well, I should say new, but it's not really new. This map's been on the console for a long time, Empire's Border. And am I right in thinking, in console players, please tell me down below, that this map was trialed on the console, it didn't work out, so they ended up removing it? I'm not sure. I know this is on the Chinese server as well. One thing is for certain, this map looks absolutely glorious. I think it's an absolute beautiful map. I really like the way that Wargaming have modeled it in HD, but it kind of worries me. You see how there's only 3 ways through? You've got a choke point here in the middle, you've got a choke point towards the north, and you've got a choke point towards the south. Now, funnily enough, this game mode is also available for Empire's Border Assault. So, to force your opponents through 3 choke points, I think the only way that you're actually going to be able to win this map is if you just zerg one side. And so if you're getting into an assault game on Empire's Border in the next few weeks, I would thoroughly recommend that you try to invest your attack all on one flank. Now you'll notice that if you do decide to push out aggressively when you're the defending team, that you're right out in the open of the artillery. And you can see also that I'm thinking about going around the corner, but I'm realizing, look at all those tank destroyers on the enemy team. Sure, the Type 59 has pretty good hull armor, but if I do go around there, I am very likely to lose all of my hit points to those tank destroyers, and the self-propelled guns are just going to punish me. This T-29 is doing exactly the right thing, poking the corner with his strong turret, and spotting me up for those self-propelled guns, and we're not going to be able to handle that. In fact, he's holding back like 5 or 6 tanks that don't really want to push around the corner. And good play by him. So what am I going to do? Well, I basically tell my brother who I'm playing with, look, we got Z in the house right now. He's also playing his Type 59, and he was the gentleman who actually bought me my first Type 59 back in the day. My first ever premium tank was the T-34, because when it used to be a Tier 9 heavy, Wargaming gave it to everybody for free when they turned it into a Tier 8 premium heavy tank. And that was really nice of them. And then this was a tank that my big brother Z also bought for me because I built him as a computer. So that's a pretty good trade, right? Slave labor of, let's think, I was like early 20s then. Slave labor of an early 20s student who has no disposable income to be able to build you a computer. Oh no, I appreciate it though. It's awesome. So I always remember that. So I'll always think about the Type 59. I always think about my brother when I play the Type 59, and vice versa as well when we're playing together. Alright, so seeing how I didn't think we were going to make any progress towards the north, I decided to swing our platoon round towards the mid. And this is what really just worries me. What is an ST-1 meant to do against a Type 59? I mean, really, the first thing that he should be doing is dabbing the 2 key, right? Because the heat rounds will at least give him a tiny chance to be able to go through my turret. I've got the rate of fire now. I've got the engine power now. You know, I've got the aim time. Why did this tank need buff? The whole point of this vehicle was it was a very heavily armored medium tank with preferential matchmaking that was quite slow to get into position. And when it was in position, it didn't have the aim time or the rate of fire to be able to go to town on its opponents. Now, I'm not saying that this tank has amazing DPM even with the tiny buff that it's received, but the aim time is dramatic. Now this thing, if you have an experienced crew with things like Snapshot, if you've got brothers in arms, if you're willing to use a premium consumable, and yeah, trust me, you can use a premium consumable on this tank and still make absolutely tons of credits, then this thing feels absolutely monstrous. Look how it's getting around. It's getting around what feels like more like a T-44 or a T-44-100 rather than the Type 59. And when your speed limit is... What is the top speed limit on this vehicle? I'm not actually 100% certain. Looks like it's 20 backwards and 56 forwards. Okay, yeah, Type 59 is back. For better or for worse? I think for worse. All in all, I'm a bit disappointed. I really didn't feel like the preferential matchmaking tanks need a buff. I just really wish that Wargaming had just fixed the matchmaker. But obviously they've tried. They couldn't fix the matchmaker. So this is kind of like sticking a band-aid on a much bigger problem. It's definitely not going to fix it, but oh, I love this. I love this ambush. Yeah, that makes me happy. That's when you know you've got a platoon rolling. That light tank thought he was coming in, and now we're going to set up the counter-attack on the enemy team. So while we're doing this counterattack, let me just talk about why I think it is for worse in this case. Because now that Wargaming have buffed all of these preferential matchmaking tanks, if they fix the matchmaker and make it so it's kind of like 5-5-5 and you're kind of top one time, mid one time, bottom one time, or even if they just go back to having the old school matchmaker, which sometimes made you the only top tier tank against loads of tier 7s and tier 6s, the preferential matchmaking tanks are now overpowered compared to tier 6s and tier 7s. If you buff them to the point where they're good against tier 8s, and even sometimes better than regular tier 8s, you know what's really disgusting? In fact, this isn't even that interesting watching this, right? I tell you it'll be more interesting, is should we compare the T-34-3, hold on, I've got to switch this down to 1.2. Let's compare the T-34-3, which has recently received huge buffs to the gun depression of the vehicle, now up to 6.5. Let's compare it to the vehicle that I was just shooting. The T-34-2, a vehicle that nobody wants to play. And let's imagine that you're using the 122mm on the T-34-2, which a lot of people do. So the premium vehicle with the preferential matchmaking now has better DPM, better penetration, it has better aim time, better accuracy, better dispersion, better gun depression. The only advantage that the standard vehicle has is a tiny little bit of mobility. No, yeah, it's got armor as well. The premium vehicle has better armor. Like what? This vehicle can meet tier 10s. This vehicle cannot meet tier 10s. Yeah. I just really worry because it's bad enough that there are defenders, there are scorpions, there are patriots in the game, and you're going to see me do something quite nice here. I want to hold the kill for my brother, who's actually managing to get his 3rd kill of the game here, but unfortunately my mod pack is bugging the scoreboard, so it looks like that was his 1st kill, even though it hasn't gone up. I think he's on 3 now, and I'm on 2. Anyway, like, it just massively worries me. Oh, wow. Maybe actually holding and waiting for him to kill that artillery just got him killed to the other artillery. That'd be rather unfortunate. But it worries me because now we're seeing a state where Wargaming are not happy with just regular vehicles being better than their tier 8 counterparts. Now they want the preferential premium tanks to kind of just be absolutely crazy as well. I think it's a mistake. I don't want to really be too negative. I said everything there was to say back when I did my preferential video. If anyone remembers when I was rolling around in the Patriot discussing why I thought the preferential premiums were actually really good for the game, because they gave a chance to tier 6s and tier 7s, because they were statistically worse than tier 8 vehicles. That's now not the case, right? But I tell you what is the case. Seeing how that artillery just splashed on me, I should be able to find him, right? Oh, here, piggy. And I'm on 2 kills, so I wouldn't mind getting my 3rd. There you go, a bit of a revenge moment there against the M53-55. So 2 great games here for a tank that I think that would be absolutely fine having its preferential matchmaking removed in its current state. We pick up 184,000 credits. That's 154,000 credits profit, although that was with a premium account, and it was with completing a mission. So without a premium account, that would have been 50k, and with a premium account, that would have been 100k. We finished top on damage. We finished top on experience. We demolished unicorns on the enemy team who were playing in like really good tier 8 light tanks as well. He didn't stand a chance against us now that the Type 59 has got the mobility buff to be able to get up into position. Next up, on one of my first games on this Empire's border map, it was an assault. Again, very decent experience, 1,265. My brother picks up 3 kills, I pick up 3 kills, and we make 100,000 credits profit. This time without a mission, it would have been 63,000 credits profit, even without a premium account. So Type 59, undoubtedly, it's back. For better or for worse in the game, obviously for better for people who just want to spend your money and have an advantage. You want to pay to win. The Type 59 has now got to that state where I feel like it's just undoubtedly better than its non-premium counterparts, and you'd be crazy to want to play your non-premium counterpart if you do have this vehicle. But consequently, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I feel guilty for playing this tank now. I feel like I want a challenge. I don't want to just pay money and then have an advantage against other people. That's not what gets me off in games. I like it when I'm the underdog. I like it when it's a fair fight and you outplay your opponents. And should you now, when you play your Type 59, get any sense of satisfaction when you do manage to pick up the kills? Because it's just that much better than most of the other vehicles at its tier. Anyway, ladies and gents, I'd like to know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think that these preferential buffs have been all in all good? And one thing I'd like to say is that this isn't my opinion about all of the preferential buffs, just specifically the Type 59 and possibly also the FCM 50T, but that's for a different story. Anyway, ladies and gents, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, 654 of you voted, and the overwhelming majority voted for the WZ-1115A. So let's get down to business and play one of the strongest tier 10 heavy tanks in the game, the well-rounded and magnificent, relatively new tier 10 Chinese heavy. And if you've never been to one of my Tech Tree Showcases before, basically like a miniature tank review all the way up the tree so you can see if it's a line that's worth grinding, or alternatively, if you already have the tanks, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, and I just realized my new t-shirt is green. That doesn't really work on a green screen, does it? Yeah, anyway, thank you. See you all later. Have a lovely weekend.